Hi, my name's Chris. I'm a French teacher at OuiCommunicate, and in this video we'll be talking about the many issues of learning French with a teacher who isn't also a native speaker of English. And while it's true that it is my specialty, it doesn't make the information any less true. So it is a bit of a self-serving video, I'll give you that. But if you have any sort of doubt, the great thing about AI these days is that you can take someone's script, a script off a YouTube video, put it in AI, ask them, is this guy making any sort of sense? And you'll have your answer. So as a casual YouTube viewer who just happened to fall upon this video, you might be thinking, well, I don't see where the issue is. I don't see why it's such a big issue that my French teacher know English or not. And I understand why you might be thinking this. So to explain to you why it's so important, I'll take as an example a tennis teacher teaching tennis to a professional badminton player. So you have your French teacher, your professional badminton player as a comparison. On a surface level at least, we might think, well, it's not an issue. It can't be that hard. If you can hold one racket, you can hold the other, which is true up to a point. But if you're lucky enough that your tennis teacher also knows your first sport, badminton, on a professional level, it changes everything. We're not just talking about racket sizes or the height of the net. So we're talking about court space, angles, positioning, footwork, anticipating opponent moves, setting up points, building pressure, reading body language, and predicting shots. The sport of badminton is very complex, as is the sport of tennis. One is not the other. It's not just about holding the racket in a different way. These are all the minute variables of badminton, in other words, your first language, that the average teacher of tennis can't know about. So of course you can learn tennis with a teacher who's never heard of badminton. Of course you can. And a casual French teacher can teach French even though they don't know English. Of course they can, but the core question to me is at which level, how many hurdles will there be along the way, and with how many uncorrected errors. So in this video I'll be explaining the 3 types of French teachers you're likely to find and the advantages of working with a bilingual teacher. Let's start. From experience, I've seen that there's one of 3 scenarios when it comes to French teachers. You either have a French teacher who only studied English in high school, that's their level of English, high school. Number 2, a French teacher who took a few English classes at university while majoring in something else. And number 3, a French teacher who majored in some aspects of English, not all the aspects of English, but never mastered the whole language, because how could you? So yes, of course, there might be a 4th option. You might be lucky enough to be working with a French teacher who's that rare passionate teacher who devours English linguistics books in their free time and manages to get very, very, very close to a native level of English, but let's be frank, it's very rare. If we look at the problems that this creates, it's not just a question of this is better, this isn't as good. There are some very concrete and factual problems, such as, well, they don't have your cultural background. As speakers of English, they don't understand your grammar mistakes in the way a native speaker of English and teacher would, and they can't always spot when your English thinking is creeping into your French. And it's a bit like a spectrum that goes from full English to full French. If you're learning French with a native speaker of English, so they have the full English aspect, well, they're going to lose over here. They don't have the full French aspect. When you learn with a native speaker of French, well, you have the full French spectrum, but you're losing over here. You see, you're always losing something. Do any of these things really matter? Are we just not in the subjective realm of the opinion? Well, frankly, I think they rather do matter. We're not just within the realm of the opinion. Why? Because, well, if you have a French teacher who's also a native speaker of English, first of all, you have that superior connection with them. You have that cultural connection with them, which makes for an easier class. It's easier to relax, it's easier to joke, it's easier to trust your teacher also, because you have full assurance that they completely understand you. They get your background, and it's just easier to create that setting. It flows, it's just easier between 2 native speakers of English in a class. Number 2, there are different educational styles between the English-speaking world and the French-speaking world. French schools are typically ultra-academic. You can't say that of the English-speaking world, where you could almost say that the English-speaking world is recognizing the right answer. Think of the SATs and the multiple-choice tests, whereas in the French-speaking world, it's more about producing the right answer. A French teacher who doesn't understand the difference between the two will make learning harder, because now they're imposing their academic tradition onto you. You come from a completely different learning system as a speaker of English. I'm a QTS teacher in the UK, qualified teacher status. I know the way GCSEs work, the A-levels. It's a completely different way of going about it. It's so different from the Francophone academic tradition. And I'm also a qualified teacher in America for English, and I'll soon be qualified to teach French. It's very, very different. A Francophone teacher from France has no idea how you went to school, and it creates this extra difficulty still. And the third point, well, obviously there's all this technical accuracy between English and French, you know, the technical side of French versus the technical side of English, which most likely your French teacher doesn't know about, unless they are also a qualified teacher of English as a first and as a second language, as well as a native speaker of English. If they have all three bases covered, then fantastic, you found something as good as OuiCommunicate. So a teacher who's fluent in both languages and also teaches both languages can actually explain these differences instead of leaving you to figure these differences out. And I'd like to talk about a very practical example. Imagine your French teacher teaching you the future tense. Well, you don't use the future tense in English as you do in French. The connotation of these tenses is completely different. The importance of these tenses is different. It's not because they both carry the word future that they're exactly the same. Likely, your French teacher doesn't know what the future tense in English implies. You see? It's not just about an event that's going to happen in the future. It's not so simple at all. If you're learning French with a bilingual teacher, one who knows the full spectrum of English and the full spectrum of French, as a native but also the technical side, and can do that for both languages, well, this type of teacher can literally read into your English. They can read into your cultural background, your linguistic background. They know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. For example, if you say, bonjour, je m'appelle Marc or something. Okay, bonjour, je m'appelle Marc. Hello, my name is Marc. Bonjour, je m'appelle Marc. I can read into this. I know exactly why you're doing it and what's going wrong. I can explain this to you factually. I can explain the stress of the syllables, the length of the vowels, how you're using your mouth to shape the vowels. I know this. I know what you're doing. Can a French teacher do that who doesn't have English at that level? Very unlikely. That's what bilingual teachers can do for you. You do still have to work hard at your French. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's just a wave of the wand, my teacher's bilingual and everything falls into place. Of course not. But it does make it a lot easier. What's frustrating to me is that this skill is so rare, so unheard of, that it's hard to put into words, to explain exactly what a bilingual teacher can do versus a teacher who just specializes in French. It's actually hard to explain. And this just about marks the end of this video on the advantages of working with a bilingual teacher. My name is Chris from OuiCommunicate. You can find me at OuiCommunicate.com. I have a 100-hour program to make you go from zero to French in 100 hours. I have all the necessary online resources. I just about have the whole French language in PDF and video. Unlimited assistance, you name it, I have it. Find me at OuiCommunicate.com. I hope this video was useful. See you soon in a class. Bye.